everyone. Welcome to this week's Talking with Our Traders. This space was specifically designed to give our followers exclusive access to our odds makers. Each week, we'll be breaking down the action by analyzing the odds and answering our followers' biggest questions heading into this weekend's matchup. I am the host, Cindy Edwards, and with me today is Craig Mucklow, Vice President of Trading at Caesars Sportsbook.
Hello there.
Hi, Craig. Then we have Adam Pullen, Assistant Director of Trading here at Caesars.
Hello, everyone.
Next up, we have our college football expert, Joey Fiesel.
Hey, how's it going?
And last but not least, we are joined by a special guest, NHL expert, Carrie Shreve.
How's it going, everybody?
Happy to have you, Carrie. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Very well.
Good. All right. Let's get into it. We have the NHL season has officially started, and we wanted to kick off our talk with a little season preview. So, Carrie, can you start us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, season started yesterday with three premier games on ESPN, capped off with Vegas raising their banner. So we'll start kind of with them. So VGK kind of comes into this season with a unique position where their entire roster comes back. They didn't bring in one new addition, so all 12 forwards, 6 defensemen, and their goalies are all from last year. So that puts them in a spot where you could make a strong case that they could repeat, even though that's only happened twice in the last 2 decades plus. So the continuity of their lineup, coupled with Bruce Cassidy teams, who's formerly in Boston, he doesn't miss the playoffs. So really, hockey, maybe more than any sport, is the cliche of you just got to get to the dance. You get to the dance, you have a chance. So I fully expect Vegas to repeat, getting back to the playoffs.
I like the pause there.
Florida, on the other hand, I think has a chance to miss the playoffs altogether. For those that don't remember, they snuck in on the last few days, just ahead of Pittsburgh. 2 years ago, they were the President's Trophy winners, and they were a very excellent team, but they lost some of those pieces in Huberdeau and their coach, and brought in guys like Kachuk and Maurice as their head coach. So they were up and down last year, and they snuck in late. Incredible playoff run, no doubt about it, but if you look at some of the analytics, they were probably punching above a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's crazy to say that Florida just misses out altogether. Now, kind of coupling that and looking at the futures as a whole, 2/3 of the teams that made the playoffs from any previous season usually makes it that next season. So we really only got to figure out maybe 4, 5, 6 teams that haven't, or that will make the playoffs that didn't last year. Now, the playoff construction in hockey, a little simpler for predictions maybe than other sports, right? Because they do divisional playoffs. It's not like NBA where it's seeds 1 through 8 and anybody can play each other. It's not the NFL where that's basically kind of the same team, same as baseball. NHL, if you're Vegas, you're going to have to go through Edmonton. If you're Dallas, you're going to have to go through Colorado. If you're in the Atlantic Division, Toronto, Tampa, and Boston have, for the last several years, they've ruled that division. They've been in the top 3 spots, with the exception of Florida 2 years ago that we talked about in the President's Trophy. This year, though, I think there's a chance that we see kind of some change in that. Tampa's got some major goalie issues. Vasilevsky's going to start, he's a Vezina candidate every year he's in. He's going to start on the injured list, whatever they call it, I guess, in hockey. And so he'll be out for a long portion of the beginning of the season. Couple that with age, Stamkos, Kucherov, Hedman, they're all getting a little longer in the tooth. Boston, incredible season last year, but I know you're a Boston fan. They lost their quarterback, Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah.
He made everything go. How did it work out when Tom Brady left? You might make the same comparison that Patrice Bergeron, not so great.
It's a statement.
So I do. I think there's it's kind of a popular thing that Boston will regress. That's an easy thing to say. They had a historical season.
Right.
But Tampa Bay and Boston could fall. Toronto's going to be in there. They're going to be in the mix. Okay, so who are we replacing if we're going to take out Tampa and Boston? Kind of like Ottawa and Detroit. Ottawa at 40-1 we currently have them, and Detroit at 75-1 we currently have them. Both teams upgraded their forwards, blue line, and to a degree their goalies. Ottawa got Korpisalo, who's been hiding in Columbus, really bad team, went to LA for their playoff run last year, but short. And then Detroit's got some guys to help out in James Reimer and Alex Allen from Florida. So Ottawa and Detroit, I think at this stage, going into a season, right, I know we're not big on betting favorites.
No, you
8 months away from the playoffs,
futures,
right? Because, well, and the biggest thing is those prices are going to be there.
Yeah.
If you want the Hurricanes at 8-1, worst case maybe it gets to 6-1 before the playoffs even begin. So you're not missing out on anything.
Right.
But teams like Ottawa and Detroit at 40 and 75-1, you won't see those again if they do get to that dance. Going to the Metro, Carolina and New Jersey, no reason to think that they won't be right back up there. Carolina's the Cup favorite right now. Third team to slot in there is probably the Rangers. No reason to think the Rangers won't get back to it. Below that, though, outside of maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins, they got a couple more veterans. They're kind of at their last gasp stage of their era for the last 15 years. They brought in other vets like Erik Karlsson, longtime defenseman. So they're kind of in their last gasp stage. Outside of that, the Islanders, Flyers, Blue Jackets, Capitals, spare me on any of those. No reason why any of that should get there. Yeah, so I kind of see, again, for those that aren't familiar with the NHL playoff system, each division sends at least 3, and then the other 2 teams are made up from whoever had the best record from the remaining teams. So I could see a scenario where Ottawa, Detroit, maybe a Buffalo slot into those spots. Again, hate to roll out Tampa Bay because I think they have the best coach in the league. And Boston, they just do Boston things where they're just always there. As much as everybody else in the country doesn't care for it, Boston's there. Yeah, all right, we'll move on to the West. Unless we've got any objections to...
No, keep it rolling. You're doing great.
So we'll go to the West. As I said, VGK, no reason why I call him VGK. I'm a big fan here in Vegas.
I know, I see the, you guys can't see, but the zip up he has on.
Yeah, wearing it proudly.
Representing.
No reason why they're not going to be there again. And when I say there, in the playoffs. Seeding doesn't matter, just doesn't. Especially for a veteran team like that. Maybe other teams you want to have some home ice, but as maybe even Craig could tell you, home ice just isn't a thing in hockey.
Nope,
it's just you could probably attest to that as well. Edmonton is your next one. Edmonton is the darling. Everybody loves them. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, historic power play, highest scoring team in the league. All that's great. Has been for years. It's going to be the same thing. They're going to get to the playoffs. It's just going to be a matter if they're going to get out of the playoffs as champions. They're going to have the same issues. Last year, historical power play, highest scoring offense. Still couldn't advance past the second round. 2 years ago, it was slightly worse. They got to the conference finals, got completely blown out by the Avalanche. I don't know what changes. I love Edmonton as a team, but as a bettor, as taking them at 10-1 or 11-1 right now, I don't see it. I don't know what changes as to why they advance. They were historically good last year. Couldn't do it. LA Kings, I think that's the quieter one. You can get them right now at 20-1. They were eliminated by the Oilers the last 2 seasons. Again, given the playoff structure, they're likely going to be in a matchup with the Knights or the Oilers again. This is the best version of the Kings so far. A little more turnover than I would like, especially at 20-1. But they're going to get their chance again. Maybe this is it. Seattle Kraken. Everybody loves the Kraken. Cool jerseys, great colors. They love them. They were the best 5-on-5 scoring team last year. Incredible, given that they don't have any household name. That will, I promise you, that will regress. Regress to what stage out of the playoffs? Yes, I'm going to go on that limb and say yes. I do think Seattle will miss the playoffs. Again, vacancy because of that. I think 2 teams from that division have that chance. Calgary, I think that's the easy one. 40-1, I think, is a great, great bet. 2 years ago, they were a fantastic team under Darryl Sutter. They spent a lot of money last season. Didn't pay off. Really close to making the playoffs. If they were an Eastern Conference team, they would have been in the playoffs. They would have been ahead of Florida, for example. Darryl Sutter got fired. They're going to go back to a more offensive style, I think, and because of that, I think guys like they signed like Huberdeau and Kadri, I think are going to be able to have bounce-back seasons. So Calgary at 40-1, I think, is a great bet because I definitely see them as a playoff team. And again, once you're in there, why can't they beat Edmonton? Why can't they beat the Kings? Vegas, maybe. Vancouver's a really good one at 75-1. Nobody knows about them, right? They're tucked away in the Pacific Northwest. But they're not that far removed from being a playoff contender, and they still have some of those key pieces. Thatcher Demko in net, and probably the most underrated player, Elias Pettersson, who won the Calder Trophy a few years back, and he's tucked away in the Pacific Northwest where nobody knows. So Vancouver at 75-1 might be a spot. As we head to the last division, Colorado Avalanche should be the favorites. Anybody that bets them, I have zero argument against it. 2 years ago, they were an incredible team. Last year, if you say they took a step back, they only finished 2 points behind the Knights to take the top seed in the Western playoffs. They had a weird series with Seattle in that opening round where their Valerie Nichushkin had this domestic thing, I'm going to call it, where he was then suspended the last few games. It kind of offset the Avalanche for a good 4 or 5 day period. It's all it took. Seattle took advantage of that and won that series. No reason to think Avalanche won't come back just as strong, better than Edmonton. Hate to say it, better than Vegas. They're just a really good team, and they added strong pieces like Ryan Johansson from Nashville. Jonathan Drouin's been kind of a journeyman who hasn't done well, but maybe this is his team.
They're our biggest liability as well.
Colorado?
Yeah.
Rightfully so. Again, anybody that's made that bet, I think, is, as much as I don't love putting 8-1 right now, take it. Avalanche are a good team.
Well, you cannot.
Sorry?
No, keep going.
Okay, almost there. Dallas is quietly good. Now, I say quietly, they're 13-1, so they're short enough, but they're not a team anybody talks about. But their head coach, Peter DeBoer, he's been to the conference championship 4 of his last 5 seasons with 2 different teams, Vegas being the other one, and last year he did it with Dallas. This year they had Matt Duchene, been in the league for a while, hasn't really done too much, but he does have talent. And more importantly, in net, they still have Ottinger. And while DeBoer is a head coach, he's a big defensive structure guy. 2 years ago, he won, or Vegas won the William Jennings Trophy with Leonard and Fleury, which means the team that allowed the fewest goals in that regular season. So he did that with Vegas. Last year, they were 3rd best in goals allowed. No reason why that's not going to change. And having defensive hockey in the playoffs isn't a bad thing. So Dallas is pretty good at 13-1. Third team to slot in that Central Division is Minnesota, but that's it. They're not beating both Colorado and Dallas to get anywhere, so that doesn't mean anything. And much like the Metro, Winnipeg, Nashville, St. Louis, Arizona, Chicago, spare me. I don't want to hear Connor Bedard. I don't want to hear Arizona's turn to page. Winnipeg's regressed. Nashville's got no punch. So yeah, St. Louis has no punch. So yeah, kind of a quick synopsis. I really like Calgary at 40-1. I think Detroit and Vancouver at 70 to 75-1 is worth something, and Ottawa at 40-1 I think is kind of a fun place to be at.
All right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
you will not get a better breakdown than that, I promise. You said you don't want to hear about Connor Bedard,
But we will talk about him.
let's talk
Yeah.
about him. How hard was it to make odds for Connor Bedard?
Well, so we offer 3 different awards that he could win, right? That's the biggest thing, because again, team-wise, Chicago's not going to do a whole lot. So, and if you take away the game-to-game basis where you can bet on them to score goals and all that stuff, but just from more of a futures outlook, the Hart Trophy, the MVP of the league, highly unlikely. I can't envision any reason why him on a bad team would win MVP. Doesn't make sense.
Right.
The Rocket Richard, which is the most goals in the league, maybe that. His best comparable is maybe Austin Matthews 6 years ago. His rookie season, he had 40 goals. So best case scenario, let's say Connor has 40 goals, that still puts him probably 15 to 20 out of who's going to get, because it's just the most goals in the league, simply as that. That's something maybe to keep an eye on if he just goes crazy, because right now I think he's maybe 100 or 50-1, which is completely appropriate price, and it should stay in that area, but that's something he could get, unlikely, but could get. And then of course the Calder, the Rookie of the Year. That's the easy one. So he's favored. Right now, last I looked earlier today, we have him at -150. Little caution on that, I would say, in my opinion. Last 22 years, only 5 #1 overall picks have won that award. So that in itself isn't likely. None since Austin Matthews back in 2016. And again, it took a historic 40-goal season maybe for him to get there. You can call it kind of a smaller thing too. So some of the recent winners, Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon, some of those household names, Aaron Ekblad, he's not a household name, he's a D-man, but they were all bigger than Connor Bedard. He is 18, only, now I'm not sure how they rate this when they win. If he were to win that award, I think maybe he'll turn 19. I don't know when they hand it out. His next birthday is next July. Currently he's 18, and only one 18-year-old in the last 22 years has won that award, Nathan McKinnon. And I think we need to slow down if we're saying Connor Bedard is Nathan McKinnon. So he's got a couple things going against him, and outside of, again, being a smaller kid, 82-game season. We had a lot of fun last night. I've seen nothing but hype over him, which is good for the league
Right.
and good for, you know, he's on a premier Original Six franchise, Chicago. Like he has a massive head start. He should be the favorite. But I would just go a little caution in going hard on a short favorite like that. Maybe somebody like Hughes, Luke Hughes in New Jersey, that's at plus 750. That's worth a look in my opinion. He's on a great team.
Yeah.
They're going to win. He's going to start right away. He's playing with his brother. Like Connor Bedard, let's not make him Wayne Gretzky just yet.
All right, I love it. Guys, anything to add on while we're talking hockey?
I want to know if Carrie's dropping 10 grand on a Vegas Golden Knights super fan ring.
No, I'm not. I can't. That's great. The ring's awesome.
The ring is awesome.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I was there last night and they unveiled it on the Jumbotron and everything. That's a cool
It's a
looking
pretty
ring.
ring.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, well, I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you as the hockey season progresses, so
Okay.
thank you for coming and talking. But let's move on to some college football. And before we talk about this week, let's start with last week. Joey, how did the ending of the Miami-Georgia Tech game impact bettors here at the book?
Wild ending. I mean, it's Miami had the ball, could have easily got out there, continue their undefeated season, and continue the quest to prove that the U is back. But they chose to run the ball instead, fumbled it. Georgia Tech gets it back, scores a touchdown, game over. Going back to what we were talking about, the Mahomes thing, get out of bounds, hold the ball, get out of there with a win. They didn't, and we saw the results. Interestingly enough, Cristobal in those first 4 games did the same thing. Always ran the ball at the end of the game. Didn't do it this time, and it didn't go their way. How it affected bettors the most was the 20-point spread. That was never in contention. I mean, it was a 3-point game. You know, however many points it was at the end, they weren't going to cover the 20. But the money line, being a minus 11 favorites, is usually an attractive bet to add to a parlay. You know, I'm adding 16 parlays. I can pick Miami, Alabama. Don't have to worry about spreads. It affected them there. And for this year, those money line favorites have been well, tracking at 77.8% straight up versus 72% last year, and 14 points or favored or more is 94% as opposed to 84% last year. So that's really where it affected. I'm sure maybe in play it was maybe different.
Carrie traded it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so rare. I mean, again, I spend most of my time with hockey, but every now and then I'll chip in on college football and the NFL. And the swing actually went to the bettors because all game long, Miami was just winning, just barely, right, the whole time. But so Georgia Tech was a dog the entire time. So if you wanted to bet them at plus money, you had your chances the whole way through. So sure enough, that money just started adding up. I thought I had a nice profit for Caesars. Boy, that thing went towards the bettor's way. It was, it was.
How big of a swing was it not kicking an extra point for you?
Yeah, so then I think that's the thing. So pre-match, the extra point that Georgia Tech elected not to kick right away didn't matter. But for in-play, it was everything. There was a spot there where bettors were taking Georgia Tech minus 3.5 at an alternate spread, and they were getting in a good plus money. So 100%, I thought, boy, not only does that money line not go our way, but that point spread's about to really not go our way. And why I still don't know. They elected not to. I think they must have thought it would have been worst case disaster of blocking a kick, running the 2 points back, and
then getting a field goal.
yeah. So just goes to show you, in play, it's literally every single possible play affects somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
True.
And with in-play, sometimes between in-play and pre-match, like Carrie said, we took a loss in-play, but pre-match was good because we knocked out some money line parlays, and a lot of time that happens. Pre-match needs one thing, in-play needs one thing, pre-match needs another. So that happens quite a bit where, you know, maybe Carrie was trading the game, you know, was upset because he lost, but on the other hand, other
Joey's
people are like,
partying
Joey's
on the
happy
other side
of the
because we
Carrie's
knocked out all those parlays. So yeah, that happens quite a bit.
Awesome. Okay, moving on, Joey, does USC's lack of defense help the case for Caleb Williams to win the Heisman?
I think it's more of a two-sided coin. One side, if the defense is terrible, you're getting more pass opportunities for Caleb, which he's going to look good. I mean, he's the guy. On the other hand, in order to get the Heisman Trophy, you need to be in playoff contention. Unless your name's Lamar Jackson, you need to be playoff contention. And that defense, a couple of close games with Arizona teams, this week with Notre Dame, it could go the opposite way. So I think on both sides of the coin, it could help or hurt. I think it probably more so hurts because I think being in playoff contention, going for that national championship plays a big role, and it is definitely correlated with the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think it helps a little bit more just because, if their defense is bad, they're not going to be running the ball out. If they're up 20, 30 points, not run the ball.
Right.
Now with their defense being so poor, they're going to have to keep outscoring these teams. So maybe that will benefit, but like Joey said, it correlates with team success. And the way their defense is playing right now, like I said, you can see here both Arizona teams, doesn't look good for them long term. We'll see at Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a lot better defense than they've seen all year, so we'll see how that goes for them this week.
Right. Joey, can you preview Oregon versus Washington? It's an exciting game with some Heisman hype there to help.
This is the game of the week. You have Oregon, Washington. I'd say these teams are about even. The only thing that's really helping Washington is they're playing at home, so it should be a really good game. I mean, these are teams that both have the whole puzzle. Oregon, they both got the quarterbacks, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and then you have great defenses too. So it's going to have a lot of future implications, just like the Red River rivalry we had last week. I think the winner of this game is not only going to be the Pac-12 favorites, they'll separate themselves in the national championship for Pac-12 teams of contending for that. And also, if we see a high-scoring game, Caleb doesn't do well, I think we might see the Heisman Trophy favorite come out of this game too, really cement themselves. So Penix is it right now. Bo Nix is that third choice, and then you have Caleb as second. So yeah, I think it's going to be a wild weekend for futures, I think.
Well, we're excited. Let's move on to some NFL questions. But first, which non-QB in the NFL impacts a team's odds the most?
I think you can say, obviously, Travis Kelce. I mean, look what happened in week 1. With his not playing against the Lions, the line was 7, 6.5, and Kelce was out, went down to 4.5. Even 4, I think it got down to. So you can make a case for Travis Kelce. He's just such an integral part of that Chiefs offense. And look what happened. The offense struggled. The Lions won. I mean, it was the first game of the season, so maybe the Chiefs were a little rusty, but he makes a big difference. You could look at a player like Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, he does a lot of things, but is he worth a lot just because the Niners are such a good team?
Right.
If he doesn't play, the Niners still got that great defense. They still got plenty of other weapons. They got Debo. They got Kittle. So it's not like if McCaffrey plays, they're out of luck. So that factors in too. But I would say those two players maybe, are ones to look at. But, a lot of people have different ratings on what they think. Quarterbacks are one thing. But everybody else, in my opinion, it's not a big deal that, if the starting running back is out. Yes, there are good running backs. There's some that are better than others. Not saying everybody's equal. And that's what we talked about before, how the running back position is now viewed as almost an afterthought. They're not getting paid. They're just not the attention given to the running backs as being an integral part as they were years ago. So, I would say the best player that makes a difference, maybe Kelce, and it could be like 2.5 points, in my opinion. But again, everybody's different, has their own opinion. Craig?
Yeah, I think Kelce probably a bit generous, 2.5. Outside of Kelce, outside of McCaffrey, I can't see anybody else being worth more than a point, personally, based on my numbers anyway. But, the running back position is McCaffrey and Derrick Henry, and that's it, realistically.
Right.
There's a couple of wide receivers, but there's multiple wide receivers on the team. So if Tyreek Hill doesn't play for the Dolphins, maybe affects the Dolphins' number by half a point. But yeah, it's a quarterback-driven change. If the quarterback's out, then it could be a touchdown in some places.
And also factors, who they're playing.
Yes.
If they're playing a team.
Yeah, the Chiefs don't need Kelce this weekend.
Correct. Yes.
Well, I'm going to ask you that later on.
What did the Deshaun Watson, what has that done even in that Niners-Browns game?
That's 7, so 3 points. Yeah. We discussed this Sunday night, didn't we, when we were watching the Cowboys game? A lot of us thought 3.5, 4 around the number, and now it's up to 7. So
and if he's out, I guess we're
you're looking at 7.
So
you're looking at a field goal for Deshaun Watson, but he's not lights out this year, but he's the starting quarterback.
Adam, you mentioned it. The 49ers are a stacked team, not including CMC, but not including him as well. If the 49ers stay healthy, would they be favored in every game the rest of the season?
No. Obviously, the big one to look for is the Eagles game. They're playing at Philly on December 3rd. So they'll be probably a small, things could change, but as of right now, they'd probably be a small underdog. But
Interesting.
that might be the only one. And of course, it depends if the Niners have some stuff wrapped up at the end of the year. The last few weeks, they may not be playing anybody. So, but yeah, if every game meant something, it'd probably be yes, except the game
Except
of
the
Philadelphia.
Eagles,
Yeah.
And that'd be
Yeah,
the home field would change that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're just that strong a team, top to bottom. So, in my opinion, they're the best team in football right now. Eagles a close second, but yeah, it's a legitimate discussion talking about the Niners in these terms. Are they going to be favored every game? Can they go undefeated? You're going to hear a lot of talk like that, and deservedly so. But again, they could lose at Cleveland next week. So
Yeah, not many holes in
Anything
that
can
team.
happen.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Can you guys break down a competitive NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year race?
Yeah, I broke it down, didn't I, by saying A-Chain was going to do well. So I said last week A-Chain would be my pick for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He goes out as a monster game, and now he's on injured reserve for 4 weeks. So I think he was about plus 400 last week when we discussed him, and it just shows now. And as we say this every single week, if you get hurt, it affects the odds. And now you can get A-Chain at 20 to 1, even though he's leading the league in rushing, leading the league in touchdowns. So it's amazing how things do change. You've got Stroud now minus 110. Nakao, is that how you pronounce it? Plus $3.
Nakua.
And Robinson, who apparently, according to Joey, hasn't got a touchdown this year.
Not a rushing
Plus
touchdown. He's got
plus 400.
2 receiving touchdowns, but he's been running the ball very effectively, but just hasn't got that rushing touchdown. So it is interesting. But yeah, Stroud. I mean, if you watch
Lost
his
last
games, he lost last week, but he's at least consistent.
Yeah.
He makes good decisions. Still has yet to throw an interception. So the minus 110 is probably, correct. Puka Nacua, this Cooper Kupp came last week, so we're like, how is he going to get the production? He had one less reception than Cooper Kupp, so the Rams might have something going. Maybe, I don't know.
You're getting
probably
Joey
not,
excited
but
over here.
but yeah, it's going to be an interesting, and again, like you said, injuries play such a role in this, and if you got to stay healthy, and unfortunately, A-Chain, even as good as he looks, he's going to be out for a week. So how is that going to affect him? He could still make a run, but it's going to be much more difficult of a task.
Well, the Rams might be the other team that are favourite against the 49ers in Week 18. When the Niners have wrapped up the 1 seed, and your Rams are playing for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I guess that's what we play for. Yeah,
Ouch.
probably.
All right, well, Justin Fields looked strong on Thursday night. Does his performance last week impact the odds against a Justin Jefferson-less Minnesota team?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously he had a big game, but you got to look at the opposition. Washington's defense has been abysmal. Thought it was going to be the best part of their team. We talked about it before. It's not. So he was like 15 to 29, but he had a lot of yards, 4 touchdowns. A win's a win, so maybe I'll give him some confidence. Don't put too much stock into it, but obviously it affects the odds. And you mentioned Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the league. He might be a guy that's worth a point. I mean, he's that dynamic of a player. The line, the early line opened 4.5. We're down to 2.5. So yeah, it did have an effect. Obviously, the Bears looking good. Albeit against a bad defense. A win is a win. And that big injury on the Vikings side, it's a big reason why the line is what it is, and lower than it was when it first came out.
And interesting that the total on that game opened 49, is now down to 44.5. But there's significant weather in that game this week.
Yeah. All right, well, before we preview some of the primetime games this week, we have a question from Patrick Everson of Fox Sports, which kind of ties into our next question. So he asks, what are the most notable sharp sides for both NFL and college football so far this week? But also, this ties into, has there been any big bets or noticeable movement at the book this week?
Yeah, obviously the game just with the weather. So there are a handful of games that have got significant weather this weekend. The Chiefs on Thursday night, the Bears Sunday. Big bets from respected people. The Lions -3 for 6 figures, and the Rams -6.5 for 6 figures. The Rams -6.5. They're playing the Patriots. Who are they playing?
We play the Cardinals.
That's a 7 now, huh?
Yeah,
Yep.
7. We'll do 7 today.
Yeah. College, I'll defer to the expert.
I'll
Who wants
go
to
back
go?
and look, and I'll get back to Patrick Everson on that.
All
but I
right.
didn't have anything on college.
Perfect. Very nice. So moving on to Thursday night football, we have the 1-4 Broncos versus the 4-1 Chiefs. The Chiefs have won 15 games in a row over the Broncos. Will they make it 16?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, they'd like Kelsey probably won't play just because of their upcoming schedule. So these are the games that you can win without your superstar tight end. Well, you should. But you know, on tap in a 5-week window, they've got the Dolphins, the Eagles, and the Bills, and they want that 1 seed. So yeah, look, don't risk further injury just for a game though you're double-digit favourite.
Right.
In the Broncos' defense, last year the Broncos were the similar team as, you know, they pretty much were bad from the get-go. They only lost to the Chiefs by 6 and 3 points. So
It's a divisional game.
it's a divisional game. You know, and the Chiefs, you know, in the last few years, they don't seem. I know they beat the Bears. They pummeled them pretty good at home, but they haven't been great as huge favorites. I don't have the exact numbers. Maybe Craig does, but maybe Denver can hang. I don't think so, but. Yeah, Denver just looked abysmal. They have the worst defense in the league. It's bad. You know, when the Jets ran up 41 points, was it, or 31? Yeah, it's that's saying something. So, but look, maybe what happened last year can happen again, and they can hang. I don't see them winning, but maybe they can keep it interesting to keep the Thursday night football audience tuned in the fourth quarter.
So you don't think they're going to score 70 points against the Broncos?
No.
No? You don't see it?
I don't see it.
I had 31 at a stretch. Chiefs last 5 years as home double-digit favourites, 20-2 straight up, 11-8-1 against the spread. The under is 14-6, which is no surprise with double-digit favourites anyway. There is a relationship. The Chiefs average 30 points per game in those games. As I said, I think there's like 20-22 mile-an-hour winds tomorrow night. So I'll take under 70, please, Max Bet.
I'm going to piggyback off that.
One thing we do have, and
Yes.
credit to Adam and the team, we'll have on site later today, will a team break the 72-point scoring record? And will two teams combine to break the 113 points in a game? Because if you remember week 1, we talked about it, I joked that the Chiefs, Dolphins and Germany might get close.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Good call out there. And in the words of Adam Pullen, anything can happen. So
Right, it's the NFL.
next we have Sunday Night Football. We have Giants versus Bills. Will the Bills rebound off that surprising loss to the Jags?
I saw the practice report today for the Giants, like 5 offensive linemen either didn't practice or limited practice. Danny Dimes didn't practice.
Oh, true.
Waller didn't practice, although that was they said that was a rest day. I read an article yesterday, and I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty good. It said about Josh Allen on prime time, and he averages the best at 2.6 passing yards per touchdowns per game. That's over the last 5 years on prime time. That's ahead of Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Look.
And all those games are in America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. It's playing the Giants is like having chicken noodle soup when you got the flu. So I think the Bills will bounce back.
Do you guys agree?
Yeah, I think this Giants team is in trouble. I mean, they said the offensive line. Danny Dimes is running for his life out there. If he doesn't play, I do like Tyrod Taylor. He's usually good for a quarter or two, but probably not in this game.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, I would never advocate laying double digits in the NFL, but this seems like, especially the Bills coming off the loss last week, and the Giants, their offensive line is already bad, and like Craig said, it's, you know, those guys are already, are questionable. So there's a lot of questions there. Buffalo in their wins, they crush teams when they've won. Obviously, I think they're going to be hungry this week to get back in the win column, and I don't think it's going to be a great Sunday night matchup. But like I said,
they do have some injuries too, as well.
Exactly. We always say anything can happen. We just said it before; it can happen again. But it sure looks like it's a Bills rout is on the cards come Sunday night.
The Bills as 14-point favourites last 5 years, 8-0 straight up, averaged 32 points per game, and 6 of those 8 games they held the team to 15 points or less. Now there is some wind, but it's only like 13, 14 miles an hour. I tend to look at 20 plus. I don't know what Joey would use.
Yeah, it's probably 20 plus.
Yeah, and that's when we'll start making changes on totals and spreads like that. So it's always one to be mindful, especially Buffalo, because when it gets windy there, it affects the game.
It's getting into that time of year.
Yeah.
Okay, well, last but not least, we have our Monday night football matchup between the Cowboys and the Chargers. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it should be a good Monday night matchup with these two teams. Chargers obviously have a lot of injury questions, a lot of big names going into this game, but this could be Kellen Moore's kind of revenge game. You know, he left the Cowboys, now they're coming there. I'm sure it's been marked on his calendar for a while. So if the Chargers are healthy, I expect it to probably be a pretty competitive game back and forth. I don't see too much of a difference between these two teams, at least on paper.
Yeah. Good.
No, I mean, look, the Cowboys were awful Sunday, but they were up against the best team that they're going to see this year.
Right.
I don't rate them in my top 10, the Cowboys at all. Their strength of schedule is easy. I mean, they've played one-win teams all year except the 49ers, who have the same amount of wins in themselves and all the Cowboys opponents put together. The two losses were against quarterbacks that have a better QBR. The Cowboys might win just because they got embarrassed, but it's long term, not for me.
Right.
Yeah, we should see some points. I mean, the total was 47.5. Now it's up to 51. We saw how the Niners went up and down the field against Dallas last week. Chargers have a good offense, bad defense, but in Dallas's column, it's going to be they're playing in LA, but they're probably going to sound like they're playing in Arlington in Jerry World because it's going to be a pro Cowboys crowd. But yeah, no, the Cowboys they got brought down to earth. We mentioned how they had a great start, but now we're looking at who they played: the Giants, the Jets, the Patriots, no offense, and the Cardinals, who they got soundly beaten by. And they went up against the best team and just got obliterated. So yes, you can look and say, oh, after 3 weeks, yeah, they look pretty good, or after 4 weeks, they look pretty good. But it's who you play that matters. And we said this is a tough stretch: Niners, Chargers, Rams, and at the Eagles. That's a pretty tough stretch. So we'll learn the most about them in 3 more weeks, and we'll see where they are.
Got it. Follow-up question: do the Chargers have fans?
I think so. There's a couple.
Some.
I've never met a Chargers fan.
I've actually been to SoFi when it was sold out.
Really?
Yeah, but it wasn't for a Chargers game.
That's what I thought. Okay. Well, let's move on to my favorite part of our talk, which is overreaction or not. Are you guys ready to play?
Let's do it.
We've got some good questions this week. Let's start off with a familiar question with a little bit of a twist. Overreaction or not, the Bengals will make the playoffs.
Overreaction, I think. Big time. I mean, they had a big breakout game, but it was against the Cardinals, so I don't think I'm sold yet.
That's the guy whose team's in the division.
They probably have to win this week, right? Because don't they have a pretty good
it gets hard
in
after
the next 3?
Yeah.
So they probably have to beat Seattle, which I don't know if they will. Their game is vertical. I think Seattle's got some strong cornerbacks going, so I think I'm with you. I think it's easy to say Cincinnati's back. No, it's against the Cardinals.
Yeah, exactly.
And they've got quite a schedule ahead of them.
It has an asterisk next to it.
Yeah, they're 0-2 in the division,
Right.
which doesn't help. They've still got the 49ers, the Bills, and the Chiefs coming. The ones that they think are gimmies, that you guarantee to win, they're going to have to win all of them. They can't have a single upset, otherwise they're in trouble. But they are only a game back in the division, so it's not like it's a lost cause yet. And
Joe Burrow said he never felt better. So somebody said he's close to 100%, or as best as he's felt in a while. So they're going to need him. Like they said, they have a tough schedule.
All right, so we're all taking overreaction for now. Next question: Mac Jones would have Brock Purdy-like success if he was on the 49ers.
Joey Feasel would have Brock Purdy-like success for the 49ers. I mean, he's got 2 of the best top 10 wide receivers. He's got arguably the number 1 running back. He's got top 3 tight end. He has a defense. The guy, cool as a cucumber. He's proved it. So I think you can put anybody into Shanahan's system. So one of us 4 could probably qualify. But then we're talking Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Quick caveat.
No, I mean, that's an interesting topic. You talk about it in a variety of sports. Is it the player? Is it the team? I mean, obviously you got to have a good team around you to be successful. Obviously we'll never know because Mac Jones is not going to be on the 49ers anytime soon. So I really don't know. I mean, but it's an interesting discussion topic. But you have to have those players around you. We mentioned everybody says how bad Daniel Jones is playing. Daniel Jones doesn't have an offensive line.
No.
You have the offensive line. You can operate. You're not worrying about running for your life every play. That makes a difference. So there's no way to know. I'll say no, but because he just really hasn't shown a glimpse. That many glimpses at all during his career, but played at Alabama, looked good, but again, it's not college, this is the NFL.
Right.
Interestingly enough, I'm going to back up Purdy a little bit. He has yet to lose an NFL game where he had 10 or more passing attempts. I mean, for anybody, that is tremendous. I mean, I know obviously the Niners are the Niners, but he went down in the NFC Championship game, and he came in late against the Chiefs blowout last October. So I think it's easy to say, easy to compare, but I think no, I don't think. I think it's an overreaction. I think Mac Jones would not be as good as Brock Purdy in this situation.
On the opposite, I'd say yes. I'd say he's been dealt nothing but a disservice in New England. He had a defensive coordinator as his offensive coordinator. That's ridiculous. Real quick, anybody know how much Purdy has trailed in any game that he's started and finished in so far?
Not much. I don't think he has,
2.5 minutes.
There you go.
Wow.
There's a facet to Purdy's game we haven't seen yet.
He's when he's played
At some point, I think we will see that. It may not be till the conference championship, but I think there's a facet to, as much as I think Purdy's been fantastic and stuff, there's an entirely different side of playing quarterback that we haven't been introduced to at all. So, yeah, and I just feel so bad for Mac Jones.
I like it. Okay, next, overreaction or not, the 49ers will finish the season undefeated.
We have plus 950 on the website for any team to go undefeated. There's the Eagles left and the 49ers. The problem is they play each other, so you're going to end up with one of those two.
Right.
I think they get beat. It's going 17.
By the Eagles or?
No, I think they'll just have a letdown game somewhere.
All right.
Yeah.
But the Eagles is tough.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles is their toughest game, but also they play at Seattle, which is not an easy place to play either. Seattle is a very tough home field, so could see that as well. But yeah, going undefeated, and we mentioned before, you get down to week 17 and 18, they've locked up everything they need to. Starters aren't going to play. I just don't think it really matters. I mean, the focus should be on the playoffs, getting healthy, although some coaches like to play their stars a little more because they feel like if they take too much time off, then they get rusty. So we'll see how that goes. But undefeated, I would say no.
It's a big prize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple weeks ago you guys did say you never thought any team would go undefeated again.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Okay, overreaction or not, the Dolphins will finish the season with the NFL's record for most points in a season.
I'll take this one. Denver scored 606 points in a 16-game season. The only way Miami break that record is because they get a 17th game. So the way I looked at it, to be fair to the Denver Broncos, they averaged 37.9 points per game the year they did it. Miami averaged 36.2, and they have a 70-point game thrown in there as well. So the answer is no.
Anybody else care to chime in?
That's logic. I'm going to take that. I think I was going to take the other side, but you can't argue with those numbers.
No, no,
Can't argue with them.
Can't argue with those numbers.
No, they have to average 35 points a game the way they still have some cold weather games. They go to Washington. I know I just said Washington's defense is horrible, but weather effects. They go to New York. They go to Baltimore. It's just gonna be tough to keep up that pace. Injuries happen. It just makes the Broncos' record that much more impressive.
Exactly.
When you think of Denver, they're playing in December too in the cold weather games. It'd be interesting to see how maybe it was a mild winter in Colorado that year. But yeah, I don't see them breaking it now.
We'll see. They got enough tough 4 weeks on their schedule defense-wise. Panthers, Eagles, Patriots, Chiefs. So we'll see how they come out in those games. I'm sure Craig will be watching a couple of them.
I'll be watching the Patriots.
So no one's buying. All right. Overreaction or not, Sam Laporta is the best tight end in football right now.
Statistically, he is.
That's got to be an
big
overreaction.
overreaction. Big.
Yeah.
All right, who wants
Huge
to go?
overreaction. No, look, he's fourth in receptions for tight ends. He leads the league in yardage for tight ends, tied for first down success, and tied for touchdowns. Okay, but am I taking Travis Kelce, George Kittle? Am I taking Laporta over those two? No.
Mark Andrews, Hawkinson,
Yeah, exactly.
Darren Waller, Evan Ingram. I can
Dallas Goedert.
so many. Yeah,
The
there you
season's
go.
longer than 5 weeks, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
Exactly.
But
No, he's had a great start. So, and maybe he's going to be like T.J. Hawkinson was when he was with the Lions. So, definitely a great start to the season. But yeah, a little too early to crown him the top tight end in the league.
and it certainly helps that your coach was a former tight end in a high production offense. I mean, that's going to pad a couple.
In all
stats.
fairness, that double flea flicker was pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, we're all in agreement on this one. Moving on, let's get to some weekly predictions. Who wants to start?
I'll start since I am leading the pack at 3-2.
Oh, you picked a winner
I
last
picked a winner. Picked the
Look at
Niners. Picked
that.
the best team. Went the square route. This week I'm going against the Ravens. Going to London.
Makes sense.
Two teams coming off a loss. I really haven't seen this Lamar transition to more passing work out for the Ravens. Obviously, tough loss to Steelers. Steelers coming back. But I'm going to go with the Titans. I think there's going to be a lot of field goals in that game. So give me the Titans +4.
Fun. Adam.
I'm going with the Ravens in the first half. I didn't want to take the first half, but it's only because of the travel issues. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it. I said before I don't think travel's that big a deal, but the Ravens left Monday.
You're finally a believer.
He's a believer.
No, I'm saying in this case.
He's a
Okay.
first
The
half
Ravens
believer.
left Monday. The Titans still haven't left. I assume they're in Nashville, still on Broadway having fun. They're going to leave, get there to England on Friday morning. The Ravens did it because a few years ago they played the Jaguars. They left. They did the same thing. They got there Friday. They got obliterated 44-7. We saw how the Bills started off slow. Surprisingly, they decided to go late in the week, which I was surprised by. It doesn't mean that's the whole reason why they lost, but I'm thinking, look, I'm 0-4 in one of my picks. It can't get any worse. Well, it could. I'm going with the Ravens in the first half, laying the 2.5. The number's fine. The number's where it should be. Just more of a play against one team getting there, being acclimated. Can have some fish and chips, go to a pub. While the Titans are going to come late, and I think their body clocks, might pay the price for it, at least in the first half. And plus, they don't have that great offense either. Ravens have a good defense.
All right, Carrie, would you like to officially give your first ever
I will.
weekly pick?
I hate that my first official is going to go up against the Sharps that took the Rams -6.5. But now that it's at +7, it's an automatic bet for me. Arizona was an ATS darling 3 weeks ago before they got messed up by the Niners, and then last week
The Bengals.
Bengals, correct. Nevertheless, I think there's kind of a shift there. I think there was something there. I know James Conner is injured. I don't know if the Rams quite deserve a full touchdown at this stage. They've played competitive in most of these games, but even that Colts game could win either way. Colts game could win either way. Cardinals +7, I think, is an automatic bet for me.
All right, Craig.
After picking my first winner, finally, I'm going to double down. I've got two. The Saints and the Texans first half over, and the Colts and the Jags first half over.
Okay. I thought I was going to see a full game, but I guess
No,
I'll wait for
it's
next.
exactly the same logic as last week. So it worked for me last week, so the same logic.
So
goes
how
this
do we
week.
get, these each count as half a point? We need to keep this grading system even.
There's money changing hands behind the scenes.
Okay.
What does my push count as?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should figure this out
Yeah.
behind the scenes. But okay, great.
Just be careful. There's lots of weather in New York, Cleveland, Chicago, and Kansas City this week.
You heard that here first from our official weatherman. It looks like we're just about out of time. Thank you everyone who joined and submitted questions for our Talk with the Traders. Thank you Craig, Adam, Joey, and Carrie. If you don't already, please toss us a follow at Caesar Sports on Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter. We're also on Facebook, and this entire conversation will be uploaded to our YouTube channel tomorrow, so you can see us all on the camera. It's a beautiful sight. Feel free to give us a follow and listen, and we hope you guys have a lovely weekend watching all these anticipated matchups. Guys, anything to say?
Good luck, everyone.
Good luck.
Good
Yeah.
luck.
All right.